Terence Crawford be stripped of all 147 titles after Boots Ennis was elevated to IBF champion? What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Cardinal Red Sports. Let's talk about it. Alright, I just want to take a second here and give a big shout out to Ghostbusters 6395. That's Ghostbuster 6395. Big shouts out to you from your homie Cardinal Red, man. He dropped a $10 super thanks on one of my videos. You know, I've had that on for a while now and I've really got no response out of it. So when I got the email stating that someone had actually donated to the super thanks, man, that really made my day, because at least one person is willing to donate to the channel, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent, whether you agree or disagree. I just appreciate the fact that someone is willing to donate to the little bit of hard work that I do on a daily basis for the YouTube boxing community. So I appreciate Ghostbuster 6395. Appreciate you, and thanks for subbing to the channel. In boxing, we trust. Alright, y'all, so I think by now everybody knows what happened with Jaron Boots Ennis and the IBF and Terence Bud Crawford. I have a new question, though. Should Terence Crawford actually be stripped of all the titles the same way that the IBF did, because he has no intentions of defending those titles? I want to pose that question to the boxing community for anybody listening.
Some promoters, they'll keep you on this level where you need them. They don't want you to reach too high. So, you know what I mean? They ain't going to do certain things to push you to be this superstar. Because once you become a superstar, you outgrow the belts. You outgrow the promotional company. Kind of like Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Oscar De La Hoya. You know, they can do anything in boxing when they was boxing, and they didn't have to have a title. They didn't have to be named champion. Those sanctioning bodies wanted to be a part of them. Like Canelo right now, he's earned the right to do what he's doing right now, and that's going to get a bag from here.
Alright, y'all, so I got a question for y'all, and it basically is, should Terence Crawford be stripped of all those 147 titles? Because if you ask me, I don't think he has any intentions of actually defending those titles. Well, in a certain scenario, I think he would, but overall, when it comes to him trying to actually fight some of the younger fighters, some of the Jaron Boots Ennis of the world, you know, some of these other up-and-coming young guys, Emino Santanios, and other guys that are underneath him, and Errol Spence and Jaron Ennis. Should he actually be stripped of all of these titles? Because he's going to make the move up in weight, and he's only looking for big paydays. And the thing about 147, if you're not talking about Errol Spence Jr. or Keith Thurman, there's really no money left at 147.
You can't just move up 20, 30 pounds. When you gain 12 to 15 pounds within 6 weeks, you're really not gaining it the proper way. You're eating bullshit to get up to that weight class. So it's a process. You gotta lift the weights, you gotta touch the weights, you gotta eat right, you gotta eat more, burn less. Once you gain the mass, then you go from that point to now performing it at that level. So when you start performing at that level, now you're starting to feel like, okay, I feel stronger. Problem is that when you get up that high, you already put on the mass, can you comfortably take it off? Because if you lose weight too fast, you're not losing just weight, bro. You're losing body mass, you're losing muscle mass, you're losing all kinds of shit.
Now, there is one fight at 147 I think would actually make anybody who took it a lot of money, but I think because most of the popular fighters are U.S. fighters and Josh Taylor is from the other side of the pond, that nobody wants that Josh Taylor fight, even though I think he's already made the move up to 147, but nobody seems to be looking to take a Josh Taylor fight. Now, I don't know if that's because he's coming off a loss or they just don't believe that his name will sell any tickets in the U.S.
I can feel it down in my plums. You're getting a nice bluish hue. Getting ready to take them to the farmer's market. Special 2 plums for 1.
But I don't think there's any money left at 147 to be made for a guy like Terence Crawford or even a guy like Errol Spence. Now, if you're a lower level guy like Jaron Boots Ennis.
If people don't like it, if you're being yourself, fuck them.
Now, I'm not saying he's lower level skill-wise. I'm saying that in popularity and in pay-per-view sales, he's a lower level than Spence or Crawford. There's still money to be made at 147 because you haven't even hit those levels of $5, $10, $15 million yet for your event. So there's plenty of upside for you when it comes to 147. Like if you was to make a fight between Boots and Keith Thurman, I think there's money to be made there for both guys. If you was to make a fight between Boots and Amino Santanios, I think there's a little bit of money there to be made. There'll be more money to be made with Keith Thurman. But if you was to take Crawford and put him in there with Boots or Amino Santanios, then Crawford's kind of downgrading himself when it comes to money.
Take away my money.
So if there's no money to be made there, Terence Crawford's not going to be defending those 147 titles unless it's this one scenario. And it's the scenario he's trying to have play out so he gets a 2-for-1, which is kind of clever and smart, but at the same time, you see how kind of shady Terence Crawford really is. Now, we all know that Errol Spence wants no more of 147 pounds because he can't make the weight.
It's okay. Just get it all out.
Now, there are rumors coming out that he broke his ribs in sparring or some type of accident before the Terence Crawford fight. But that's not the reason he doesn't want to campaign at 147 anymore. The reason is he can't make the weight comfortably anymore, and he's having to do these drastic things to make the weight. Now, Terence Crawford is trying to get a 2-for-1 on Errol Spence Jr. He's trying to force the rematch to be at 147. Why? Because he gets a defense of those 147 titles out of that. And he gets to make upwards of $20 million. And, you know, if he defends those titles, then he can hold on to them a little bit longer and not be stripped or not be threatened of being stripped of those titles. Now, if he moves to 154, there's a higher probability that the other sanctioning bodies are going to start taking notice of what the IBF did, and they're going to start threatening to strip him as well. Because here's the thing about it. If he doesn't fight Errol Spence at 147, then once again, they're most likely going to strip him because there's mandatories there, and he hasn't taken on any of those mandatories. And if he fights at 154, he won't be taking on any of those mandatories. If he beats Spence at 154, he's more than likely going to fight Canelo Alvarez at 160, and he won't be defending those titles because he's only going after big money.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Now, you're talking about a year, maybe a year and a half for all this stuff to play out. So let's just say that the Spence fight happens in January, February, March, sometime around then, and he ends up beating Errol Spence. Well, then the Canelo Alvarez or the Jermell Charlo fight that might happen won't happen until at least the summertime. So we're talking about at least a year, another year before any of those 147 titles can even be talked about getting defended.
And mama, don't worry, you raised a gangster. I'm a survivor. You know what I'm talking about?
And if Terence Crawford actually makes the jump all the way up to 160 pounds, he's not coming back down to 147. So that means that those 147 titles that he has left will be sitting there the same way that the IBF title was sitting there for 2-3 years with Jaron Boots Ennis as the mandatory and him never getting a shot at those titles. So I think that, once again, Terence Crawford is trying to get a 2-for-1 out of Errol Spence Jr. by forcing the fight at 147. If he forces him to fight him at 147, he gets a defense of those titles and he can hold on to them longer, which means that when he goes into the Canelo Alvarez fight, if he beats Errol Spence, he has leverage over Canelo because he can go in as a unified champion. He's not undisputed anymore, but having those 4 titles or 3 titles will give him a lot more leverage in the negotiating room. So I think, once again, it's a smart move by Terence Crawford, but I do feel like that those titles need to be taken away from him, because he's only using them as trinkets and negotiating power, and he has no actual intentions of defending those titles versus any up-and-coming or any current 147-pound fighter.
That's why I think now I didn't help nobody. I didn't help enough people. I kept too much money. I spent too much on myself. When you're young, I didn't understand what taking care of yourself was. I thought taking care of yourself was fucking 100 girls, getting drunk, getting hot, buying myself a nice suit, driving myself a nice car, buying myself a nice house or a plane. I thought that was taking care of myself, being good to myself. That was killing myself. I was dying to live.
Y'all let me know what y'all think about all that down in the comment section below. Hit that like button for me. Share. Subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. But you're more than likely to get a response on the tubes, so holler at me over there. If you want to collab or feature a product or your channel on my channel, feel free to hit my Gmail, because it is a flock of cards at gmail.com. And we are
If you're from the field, you know I'm fucking with you. If you're from Kentucky, you know I'm fucking with you. You ain't never heard of me, you wanna get familiar. Well, my nigga, let me paint a picture. 12 motherfuckers split in 3 bedrooms. Dang, my nigga, let me get some leg room. Every single night we watch the 10 o'clock news. Young black man murdered over tennis shoes. Every year we move to a brand new hood. Had to fight a nigga just to make it understood. Bitch, I learned to fight from Wayne and your knuckle. First thing they taught me, nigga, swing if you touch it. Moved out of town when I turned 19. Seen $400 pounds of light green. Moved back home before I turned 20. I guess you could say that was the birth of Louis Keys. It was time to let these niggas know my name. Young Real introduced me to the game. He was rapping too big back in the day, when they had Daddy Yo and Hurricane. They was getting beats from Willie Will and Lil J. Can't forget Young Sirs, they did they thing. That motivated me to do the same, and I did it. Spit it so clean, they thought I came from a dentist. This is for my niggas with a chain gang sentence. When you make it home, I got some change and some bitches. No hook, but they still play it in the club. 7 grams of the loud, paid about a dub. Cause I know the plug and I know the outlet. Feel snapback I got ain't came out yet. Nigga, please listen to the game that I'm slinging. Tax time come around, I claim like I'm banking. Ain't nothing worse than $1 million bitch that'll fuck for a purse. I need a nurse, I think I'm getting sicker. My nigga Dose came through with 2 bottles of liquor. This is for my nigga Moski and all the other real OG. Do a line, pop a pill, roll some weed. Take a seat and listen to the book of keys.